I'm not used to having anyone here, so if I'm in your space, I'm kind of going through some QCUSD. It's like. You're getting sued by we're getting served. The district's getting sued. Quince, you ready? All right. Welcome, welcome. We'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the governing board. All right, represented by the Bulldogs. Let's see. So to get things started, first we want to recognize that a long-lost member of our board is finally back with us. Judah Nativia has been gone. He joined the Naval Reserve, and he's been at basic training and other stuff. And so after 6 months, Judah's back with us. So I just want to recognize what he's done in his service, and welcome back. And with that, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Our fourth grader, Keegan Roke from Desert Mountain Elementary, is going to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next up, discussion and possible action to approve the board meeting minutes dated September 19th, 2017.
So moved. Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Superintendent's report. Dr. Berry.
President Bragg, members of the community, thank you for being here and welcome back from fall break. Welcome back, Mr. Nativio. I do have some construction updates. As you know, we're one of the fastest growing districts in the state, and I want to give you some important updates on new construction. I'll start with Elementary 6. We are currently in the construction document phase and prepared to submit a GMP for the board tonight. And I want to take a moment to appreciate all the teamwork. I'm very pleased with the design team and our contractors and our staff and the community that went into putting this together. Been through many design meetings. We've provided you with 2 different updates along the way, and you guys have given us feedback. Now we're prepared to give you the GMP that includes all the additional changes that we've asked for. And with your approval tonight, we will issue a letter, a notice to proceed that we could break ground as early as October the 23rd. So it's very exciting. The opening of this school would open in July of 2018, and the groundbreaking ceremony with your approval will take place on November 15th. That's elementary number 6. For high school number 2, we're currently at the schematic design phase. Planning process, as you know, started with visioning meetings with over 40-50 members, then moved to programming meetings. We've had multiple meetings, sometimes 2 days a week, where we have 25 members, community members, DMB members, members of City of Mesa, Orcott Winslow, Corps, and staff. They've been working hard in developing the site layouts. The high school is doing a great job in getting input on the curriculum and how that's going to spin into the facilities. Most recently, we've had meetings with the City of Mesa to discuss the off-site improvements such as roads, utilities, drainage, improvements of that nature. Corps is currently working out some of the estimates and costs and off-site improvements such as the drainage. And then we're finishing up meetings in individual departments, and they met over fall break to discuss the bus loops and that type of thing. And I want the board and the community to know that we have great design teams, contractors, and staff working hard to create facilities that I think are functional. They're safe and they stand the test of time, and I'm very proud of the work that I see going on right now. A A couple other things. I just talked with our district AD today. He said this is public knowledge, but he found out today that we're going to be moving to 6A in the state of Arizona. It's based on enrollment, and we are currently at Queen Creek High School, 22,003 students. We grew 4 students that put it over. We're the last students, 2,200. What did I say, 22,000? Yeah, we're not growing. That's a big school. So that would start a 2-year block as a 6A school, and so there's a good and bad with that, but we're very excited about that new challenge. Our enrollment count is up to 7,579 students. And one more piece of exciting news, I feel. You may know that we have terrible connectivity problems in Queen Creek in the district. Our own repeater here at the district office gets a terrible signal, so it creates problems. But this week we hope to get a temporary Verizon tower installed at Queen Creek Middle School. It's currently standing, but it will be functional temporarily on Friday, and then the permanent Verizon tower will be erected on one of existing light poles in March, which will increase the connectivity. Not only for the district, it's a good thing for our school district, but it's also a great thing for the residents in our community. So we're very proud of that partnership between the town of Queen Creek and our staff. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now the fun stuff. Not that that wasn't fun, but so tonight's a busy night. It's the opportunity where we have to recognize the creme de la creme, the best of the best. We're going to get to, because of fall break, we're only having one meeting this month, so we're going to not only recognize our phenomenal students, but also our phenomenal employees. And so after we're done recognizing everyone, then we'll take a short break and people can leave and take photos and all that fun stuff. But the way we're going to do this, for those of you who aren't sure, we're going to the board members will come down, and we're going to, each one of us will take a name and we'll read about the student or the employee that's being recognized. When we call your name, come on up, and everyone who came to honor that student or professional, come on up, and we'll then go to that backdrop and we'll get photos. And then at the end, parents, it's a phenomenal time to get pictures of your students, and we're going to get a picture of just the students together, and it's going to be awesome. So we're excited, and we're going to come on down and start bragging about you guys. All right. So first up is Keegan Roke from Desert Mountain Elementary. By the way, so I'm going to give you this. There you go. And stand there and look good for everyone as we read. So, this boy is amazing in so many ways. He is always positive and happy to be at school and encourages others with positive comments. Daily, he tells me to have a nice day or even wonderful weekend. I also love his work ethic. He takes his time in all that he does and checks carefully that his work is nice and neat. He made the honor roll and his AR and AM goals this quarter. Lastly, his classmates enjoy being around him, and he is always there to help them if they need anything. He is well deserving of this award. Awesome, man.
Okay, from Jack Barnes Elementary, Sophia Parker. Congratulations to Sophia Parker for exhibiting many qualities that make a wonderful student and citizen. It is my pleasure nominating Sophia for September Student of the Month. First, Sophia is willing to try new things even though it may be difficult at first. She is not afraid of technology and has a great attitude when she is being trained. Second, she comes to school with a smile and a positive attitude. Third, she asks questions when she is curious or confused. I wish all of my students would do that. At the beginning of the school year, Sophia was very quiet. I asked her to participate more during lessons and class discussions, and that's exactly what Sophia did. Finally, Sophia is friendly, helpful, caring, and trustworthy. You want her on your team and in your classroom. We are so lucky that Sophia is part of the JBE Pride and in room 122.
All right, next up from Queen Creek Elementary School, Madison White. All right. So Madison says, an honest person is someone who is fair and truthful. He or she is an individual who is loyal, trustworthy, and has the courage to do the right thing. So when I had to select a student who exhibited honesty, I knew right away that Maddie was my choice from our kindergarten classroom. Maddie is such a great role model in our class. She is honest, reliable, kind, fair, and dependable. She comes to school each morning with a smile on her face, excited and ready to learn. Maddie also has a loving, caring heart and is a good friend to everyone. She follows directions and always does her best. I can always trust Maddie to do what is right. I love having her in our class, and I am so proud of you, Maddie. Congratulations.
From Gateway Polytechnic Academy, Molly Oshinsky. Some nice things about you. Molly is a well-rounded student who brings a wealth of knowledge to our 4th grade classroom. I often find her helping others with their work, volunteering her time, and setting a good example for the rest of the class. Her willingness to learn and grow make Molly a perfect example to all. Molly is truly an amazing person, and she should be extremely proud of her accomplishments. Congratulations.
All right, I have from Francis Brandon Pickett Elementary, Laura Buggs. And I mispronounced it. It's Lara. I'm so excited to choose Lara Buggs as our Student of the Month for September. Lara continually exhibits the character traits that make for a great student role model. Lara shows responsibility by staying on task to complete her works on time as well as completing her homework too. Lara is a caring and kind friend and always sharing her supplies and her heart with her friends. We recently had a new student join our classroom, and Lara was the first person to befriend her and make sure at recess she had a buddy to play with. What I most admire about Lara is these traits come natural to her. She has never had to force herself to do these things. They just happen because she's Lara. First week of school, Lara's family went through the unfortunate event of a house fire. They lost all their belongings and their home. What I admired most about Lara is she did not once let this tragedy affect her at school. She has never once uttered a negative word about her experience. She has never used it as an excuse. While she missed some school during her family's relocation, she has returned and gotten right back to work as if she never left. I am so proud of all Lara has accomplished this quarter. Faced with unimaginable circumstances, she has continued to grow and shine every day. I am so incredibly honored to have her in our class. Great job, Lara. From Miss Carrie Keys. Awesome.
Jaden Brewer, Queen Creek Elementary. All right. The shock trait for the month of August is service, and I have chosen Jaden Brewer as my student of the month. Since the beginning of the year, he has been helpful anytime help has been needed. He has helped our new kindergarten friends find their way back from the bathroom, cleaned up messes that weren't his, and been overall a tremendous student around school. I have seen Jaden not only show service to others, but I have seen him serve his own education by getting all of his work finished at a high quality and picking up a book and reading or doing AM when he is finished in class. This type of character will allow you to reach any goal you set your mind to. Great job, Jaden, for earning Student of the Month, and keep up the gentleman mentality.
Okay, next from Newell Barney Middle School, we have Zoe Page. All right, Zoe shows responsibility with her belongings and her homework. Zoe is very respectful to her teachers and peers. She is caring about everyone. She is positive and friendly. Zoe is a pure joy to see every day. Congratulations, Zoe.
All right. From Queen Creek High School, Kenneth Orihuela. All right. Kenneth was in my Algebra 1 lab class briefly last year when I was always happy to get the help necessary for success. This year, Kenneth signed up for honors geometry. I asked him why he signed up for honors, and he said he wants to go to college and is willing to work extra hard to level up in math. Since the beginning of this year, Kenneth has put in extra effort. He struggled at the beginning with the pace and the higher expectation for homework and tests, but he came in for help and got on track. He is now finding success on his own and doing well in honors geometry. Upon inspection of his other classes, he is maintaining good grades all around. He is in boxing outside of school and wants to join track this year. He is always polite to adults and his peers. I am proud of his initiative to better his academics and believe he deserves recognition for striving towards higher long-term goals. From Evelyn Fox. That's awesome.
From Queen Creek Middle School, Kyle Myers. Kyle is a helpful, reliable, and courteous young man. He is always willing to lend a hand. Kyle has a great sense of humor, gets along well with his classmates, and is excited about school. His enthusiasm is genuine and appreciated. Kyle comes to class daily with a smile and ready to learn. He adds to conversations and is on task during group or teamwork. I appreciate Kyle and all his hard work.
From Newell Barney Middle School, we have Cole Stevens. I like that he came up here in uniform representing the Bulldogs. Excellent. This is from Erica Donovan. I had Cole last year in 6th grade elective wheel, and he has always been a hard worker and respectful young man. I have Cole this year in the Abbott elective class for 7th graders, and he has stood out extremely among his peers. Cole has taken the strategies that we are learning in Avid and applies them to his learning. He has been placed in 2 honors classes and is pulling A's in those classes. Not only are all of his grades above average, Cole has also begun to participate daily and willingly in class. Through his actions, he is a strong student leader who positively influences peers simply by being a strong role model. Cole is definitely deserving the recognition for his hard work and application of strategies to become an even better student and role model. Great job, Cole.
All right, so they're going to get Cole taken care of and get those photos, and then we'll have all the students. So parents, this is a good time to get photos and, I don't know, get photos. And then once they're done with that, we'll get started on the employee accolades. All right. So if you have football practice and you're in your pads and you got to go so you can play on Saturday, we release you. So now we're going to get started with the Employee of the Month. All right.
Yes, sir.
But the good news is if you guys want to bail. All right. Okay. So now we'll get started with our phenomenal staff members. And again, I love these things. This is, I consider this our payday. We get to recognize the excellence that we get to read about and observe. And I'm just excited to get started. So we're going to call up the person's name when they come down. Please bring those people that are here to celebrate with you. And tonight, our volunteer nomination is Teresa Hansen. Is it Teresa? Oh. All right, good. Well, hey. Oh, and tonight we're giving gift cards from the Queen Creek Education Foundation. So if you have an opportunity to donate to them or participate in their events, they provide scholarships, they provide these gifts, and we definitely want to thank them for all that they do for our district. But anyway, Teresa Hansen is the Vice President of the Newell Barney PTSO. In fact, this is the second year Newell Barney has had a PTSO, and Teresa was one of the founding members last year. She is creative with ideas for Spirit Night fundraisers and has the gift of getting businesses to donate food for staff lunches. Before PTSO's existence, the Newell Barney staff never had parents show their appreciation by feeding them. I can speak for all the staff about how we appreciate all of the lunches, classroom supplies, and gift cards provided by PTSO. Last May, the PTSO sponsored a Queen Creek Middle School and Newell Barney Middle School 8th grade dance held at Queen Creek High School. Teresa helped plan and organize this special dance. Also, she attended the first of its kind community and family community cafe event on Friday, September 8th. Teresa went out of her way to adjust her morning schedule to make sure her children were able to get to school without her that morning, since the meeting began at 7:30 a.m. She was a very valuable participant during the roundtable discussion. Newell Barney feels grateful for all of the kind and thoughtful things Teresa does for staff. We wouldn't have all these special memories without Teresa's commitment and dedication. Thank you.
Kyle Olson. Do we want to wait for a moment? Okay. All right. Bear with me. They had a lot to say about Mr. Olson. I agree with all of it. Here we go. The reason for nomination. It is my pleasure to recommend Mr. Olson for Queen Creek Unified School District Teacher of the Month. It has been my privilege to know Kyle for the last 12 years as a friend and teacher. Every school or organization has its pillars, those individuals who make the system successful. Mr. Olson is one of those individuals at Newell Barney Junior High School. Somebody wrote that wrong. Anyway, moving on. His dedication and hard work to the school is both commemorable and admirable. Mrs. Donovan writes, I have worked with Olson for 12 years. He is such a kind-hearted, helpful teacher who builds a positive environment for the kids, but also for his peers. He is open to suggestions. He is constantly taking what he does in his classroom and working with others to make it better. In the past few years, Olson has stepped up in various situations to take on leadership roles as well, helping organize field trips and retreats, as well as leading among the coaches. In addition, Olson is a good friend. He can be trusted to give valid feedback, and overall, he just makes working at Newell Barney a more pleasant experience. But wait, there's more. I definitely concur with the sentiments of Mrs. Donovan. Mr. Olson works very hard to improve his students' academic skills by making his lessons not only educational, but also appealing to the children. He teaches on an individual basis, meeting the child on his or her own ability level. Mr. Olson shows his students the utmost respect and indicates to the children his faith in their abilities to do their best. Students respond to him by trying their hardest to accomplish the goals he set for them. Mr. Olson's students show him respect and feel he is accessible if they need an adult in whom to confide. Mr. Olson works hard to increase self-esteem in his students and empowers them with decision-making skills. In addition, he holds them accountable for their schoolwork and their behavior. His dedication and commitment to quality programming for his students was the driving force in his efforts to build our programs at our school and to add any other activity he was a part of. Mr. Olson is able to make difficult decisions for both him and for others when the value to students is the issue. He exhibits a love of learning, models the behavior of a lifelong learner for both students and colleagues, and is committed to the development of all people. Mr. Olson gets things done promptly and carefully. He is conscientious, active, and energetic, gaining control of situations instead of letting events control him. He looks ahead, anticipates needs, and initiates action. All of this is done with a friendly cheerfulness, courtesy, willingness to listen, and understanding of another's point of view. He does not, however, shrink from speaking to someone who has created unnecessary difficulties or to a student who has broken the rules. Mr. Olson has my highest admiration and respect. He is a blessing to me as well as the Queen Creek community. Thank you.
Next up from Noel Barney is Deborah Wilcox. Okay, reason for nomination. No matter how many projects Deb is working on, she always has time to help you out. If she's not sure of an answer, she will find out and get back with you. Deb's door is always open, and she never makes you feel like your question is unimportant or trivial. Her knowledge is beyond measure. She is hardworking, dedicated, and patient. It is nice to know if we need assistance, Deb is always there for us at the district office. Thank you, Deb, and we appreciate you.
Bob Frazier? Is that right? Bob Frazier is the Noel Barney Middle School Daytime custodian. He worked in Paradise Valley District as a custodian before coming to Noel Barney Middle School last spring. Bob is the type of employee we love to clone. He loves to keep busy and has amazing work ethic. Bob not only cleans, sweeps, and dusts, he also makes sure the windowsills are kept clean, as well as ensuring the windows are fingerprint free. Bob is quick to complete a task, and he is the type of employee you have to ask once and it is done. For example, at the end of the last school year, a few teachers were changing classrooms and the classrooms weren't ready. So the teachers left boxes of material in a specific holding classroom. Bob surprised the teachers and moved all of their boxes into their new classrooms over the summer. Another time, Bob was asked to move a science demonstration table from one classroom to a classroom in another building. By the time the teacher returned to her classroom, the science and mobile table was there. Bob enjoys the students, and the students enjoy him. He has such a positive attitude and always a smile on his face. Bob has a natural ability when dealing with both adults and students. Everybody loves him and his sense of humor. In fact, quite a few students have volunteered to help him in whatever way they can. Thank you.
And lastly, but certainly not least, Cheryl Webb.
First off, I'd like to thank all the people I work with. I'd like to thank Mr. Schultz for passing me up on that job years ago. Mrs. Valencia, who didn't even give me an interview. In your face.
Awesome. Just kidding. All right. Cheryl Webb worked at the Queen Creek Performing Arts Center before coming to Newell Barney Middle School as the administrative assistant. During that tenure, she was a very active parent volunteer. Every school or organization has those individuals who make the system successful. Cheryl is that person. Cheryl Webb is one of the most efficient people Newell Barney Middle School has had the privilege to know. On any given day, she juggles a myriad of balls in the air, and inevitably, they all land exactly where and when they were intended. She is extremely organized, efficient, and detail-oriented. Cheryl is the go-to person who always has the answer, and if she doesn't, she will find the answer. She will stop whatever she's doing to help out regardless of the request. As the administrative assistant, Mrs. Webb comes in contact with many students each day. We are so impressed by how Mrs. Webb works with students individually and is able to meet the child on his or her own ability level. There are several ways of dealing with students, including the option of dealing with students on a platform of mutual respect. Mrs. Webb always shows students the utmost respect. In turn, students respond to Mrs. Webb with respect as well. Cheryl Webb is unfailingly cheerful, upbeat, and positive. Those that know Cheryl will often leave her office in stitches, and she has a wonderfully crazy sense of humor and is so much fun to be around. We are fortunate to call her our colleague and a friend. We can't imagine Newell Barney Middle School without her. Grace. right, so we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll get things rolling at 6:55, according to that clock. I really like. So next up, we have the call to the public. I don't have any blue cards. All right. 6, consent agenda. And I'll just read this. The governing board would like to thank everyone who's donated to Queen Creek Unified School District schools. The generous support of our schools and district is greatly appreciated.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a first and a second and a third. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. 7. Public hearing pursuant to ARS 15-905. Crystal Corpin. So I guess we need to call to order the public hearing pursuant to ARS 15-905, and Krista will speak to us regarding the revised 2017-18 budget.
Thank you, President Bragg, governing board members. Tonight I am bringing to you a budget revision for the 17-18 fiscal year based on a legislative initiative. As we always do with our presentations, everything that I do aligns with something on this plan, and most often it falls in Strategy 4, which is facilities IT support and enhancing our ability to implement strategic plan. We are a service provider as a finance unit, so I typically am the support of the district. The objective of tonight's presentation is to explain the revision of the fiscal year 2017-18 expenditure budget for the adjustments specific to the 1.06% teacher salary increase. And this year, based on this legislative initiative, the governor had written into that bill that we are to revise the budget by November 1st. So this is my compliance piece of that, to revise that simple piece. The law came from Laws 2017, Chapter 305, Section 33. Basically said that we were to revise the budget for the calculation to tighten it up a little bit after we had seen some actual numbers come in. Obviously, with our district growing as much as it has, we had to do a lot of research to make sure that we could capture the correct salaries for each of our new teachers, especially for last fiscal year. Tonight, I will be asking you to, as a board, not only approve this budget, but also, similar to the way that we proposed and adopted the budget, we asked you to do a separate approval for that 1.06%. We're going to do the same thing tonight. This is our budget timeline for fiscal 17-18. As we typically do, we adopt the budget in July. We can have as many revisions as we need or want throughout the fiscal year, but oftentimes we'll do one in December to kind of tighten things and align things more closely to what actually happened mid-year, and then we've got until the end of the year to revise the budget. This particular revision is kind of one of those in-between items. It's right directly before our December revision, if there happens to be one, and we are also required to hold a budget hearing similar to our proposed and adopted budget, so that's what we're doing tonight. As I always like to do with any budget adoption for the public and for the board, just to remind them that some of the factors that directly impact how our budget might change upwards or downwards is many of these factors right here. Student enrollment is often the factor for our district, especially in the extreme growth that we've got. Capital transfers, carry forwards, adjustments by ADE, and tuition revenue are all things that can fluctuate our M&O fund budget. This time specifically, it is the legislation piece that we are revising for. And going into helping you understand what specifically changed from the adopted budget back in July to now, these are, again, those items that I talked about. The revenue control limit is what is created by the state funding formula and is based on a per pupil revenue amount. So that item specifically is where that 1.06% amount is derived and put. If you look at the budget that I have given each of you a copy of, You should have some nice little packets in front of you because I've got 3 presentations tonight. This one is the budget. It's got the blue lines. If you look at page 2, it's a yellow box on that lower right-hand side. It explains exactly how we came to the calculation of that increase. But you can see from this chart, the increase is only $5,502, but we are going to be audited on this number, and so it's important that we get it right. So I'm bringing this revision to you, even though it's only $5,502. That is the only change that you will see in this entire budget. And again, just for consistency's sake, I always talk a little bit about capital, and no changes have occurred for this budget for this particular time. So on the right-hand column, you'll see the zeros all the way down the line between the adopted and revised budgets. There are some questions that accommodate or come with this 1.06% increase, and I've heard many of them. We ran across a really good Q&A document, which I will be putting out in a newsletter here this week for all of our employees to understand this a little bit better. But these are some of the more highly asked questions and the reasons behind the 1.06%. The first question being, who meets the qualifications? That is, these dollars are intended to go towards teachers who have taught in the state of Arizona in either a district or charter school for last fiscal year and continues to teach in this fiscal year. The definition of a teacher, in accordance with that House bill, teacher means a certified teacher who holds a classroom teaching position. So your PE teacher, your music teachers, your kindergarten through 12th grade, and different curriculum, you're in the classroom teachers. Those certified support personnel, such as counselors, media specialists, speech language pathologists, those are not eligible for this funding. I point that out because we are very much restricted in the way that we deliver this money. It has a lot of strings attached. We have to be very specific with who we give it to and what the amounts are. The amounts, speaking of, how is that calculated? It is based on the 2016-17 school year salaries, which also would include anything that the teacher may have received for things such as tutoring, coaching, and performance pay. So we went through a process and utilized HR to validate all of the different salaries that were this was based off of from last year, and came up with this number for tonight's budget revision. And then finally, the biggest question that we receive is, when will this be paid? Our payroll department we've got all of the numbers written out. We've got everything ready to go for that second week in December, the week of December 11th. We will be preparing a special payroll for our teachers, and it will be a separate check live. So they will receive it just before the winter break. And we'll get that out as early in the week as possible, but again, we'll just be delivering those to the sites. And that's all I've got for presentations. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Crystal, what was the average pay? Was that your question? I'm sorry. Okay, go, Judah. It's all Judah.
I had that in a previous, one of my previous presentations. Our average teacher salary is right around $43,000, $44,000. So the 1.06% was right around $450, $460. Obviously, that's gross. So you're going to less any taxes from that, and then they'll receive the net check.
Cool. Judah, were there any other questions I could cut you off for?
No, I'll let you know what happens again.
All right. Any questions, anyone? All right. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
So that was C, correct? Discussion presentation of revised budget. D, or there is no D. Okay, so next we have an executive session. I'm sorry to those who are waiting to do stuff. We need to go into executive session real quick. It shouldn't be long, but make yourselves comfortable, and we'll be out shortly. Oh, but we need to take a pursuant to ARS 15-843F2A, the governing board will convene to executive session concerning an expulsion of a student. I'll take a motion to move to, or it's written down, motion to convene pursuant.
I motion to convene pursuant to ARS 15-843F2A. The governing board may convene an executive session for the discussion concerning the expulsion of a student.
Second.
A first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll be back. So with that, we'd like to come on back from executive session and start up again. We're at 9A, action items. Discussion and possible action to approve recommendation by hearing officer to expel a student from Queen Creek Unified School District. I'll take a motion on that. And if anyone wants,
I move to accept the recommendation by the hearing officer to expel a student from Queen Creek Unified School District.
Second?
we have a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. B, discussion and possible action to approve second reading of policy JLCC, communicable and infectious diseases. Steve Ray.
President Bragg, members of the board, this is just a policy to bring it in line with the statute, which it's just, you can see the outlined, the student to be admitted back into school just has to be treated with a pediculide, and that's all that it is. Just change it to meet the law. Meet the law. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'll take a motion.
So moved?
Second.
I have a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. C, discussion and possible action to give direction on several bylaw change proposals from the Arizona School Board Association. So with this, what we're going to do is we're just going to go proposal A, and each person just say yay or nay, and we'll just give Quincy our votes, and she will send this off to ASBA. So the first one, ASBA Governance Committee proposes that if any director or officer of the ASBA Board of Directors misses more than one meeting in a calendar year, it will be deemed that they have vacated their office. Yay.
Nay.
Nay.
All right. Second, ASBA Governance Committee proposes that a quorum of 60% of the ASBA member boards must vote, and 3/4 of all votes must be in the affirmative to amend or repeal a bylaw. Yay.
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 C, Maricopa USD recommends that a bylaw may be amended or repealed by an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the ASBA member boards that vote. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
D, Tempe ESD proposes that an amendment to the change of the name of the ASBA Hispanic Native American Indian Caucus to the Hispanic Native American Caucus. Yay, I guess. If they want it, they can have it.
Yay.
All right, Gila Bend USD proposes an amendment that will allow a seat on the ASBA Board of Directors for the president of the Hispanic Native American Indian Caucus. Yay, I don't know.
Yay.
I frankly don't know how many seats on the board of directors. They all have their own caucus. Does anyone know if each?
Yeah, when we were at the meeting, they did say that it doesn't affect it wouldn't create an even, because someone asked, well, does that create an even vote? So like 30 vote no, 30 vote yes, what do you have? They said that wouldn't affect that. That's really the only background we got on it.
But does every caucus have a
Oh,
seat on the board of
They
directors?
didn't say.
Does anyone know?
I don't know.
All right, I vote nay. I don't have the info.
All right. Concho ESD proposes that no action by any delegate or presiding authority shall end debate or discussion at the delegate assembly. And I'm just doing nay because
Nay.
whatever.
Yeah, nay.
Nay.
Concho ESD proposes an amendment to establish a conservative caucus to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Nay.
Nay. Littleton ESD proposes a recommendation that the ASBA Legislative Committee shall hold a delegate assembly workshop in advance of the delegate assembly to orient new or existing members in establishing the political agenda, moving items for floor action, and explaining the process.
Yay. Someone wants to go. Let 'em
Yay.
go.
Yay. Let the baby have his bottle. All right. So that's it. So you got them? Awesome. On to D, discussion and possible action to approve Quincy Nelson, Board Secretary, to vote in the manner of the Board has approved in regards to the ASBA bylaw proposals.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Quincy, you have the power. All right. E, discussion and possible action to approve the revised fiscal year 2017-18 expenditure budget. Crystal.
President Bragg, members of the board, this is simply the expenditure budget that I previously presented.
Awesome. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. F, discussion and possible action to attest to allocation of monies related to the intended 1.06 teacher salary increase pursuant to laws 2017, Channel 305, Section 33.
President Bragg, members of the governing board, this is the second agenda item that we need to have the governing board attest to as to the 1.06% teacher salary increase.
So I'll take a motion.
It is recommended that do I just say that, or a motion that the governing board attest to allocation of the FY18 adopted budget of monies related to the intended 1.06% teacher salary increase pursuant to laws 2017, Chapter 205, Section 33.
Second.
A first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. G, discussion and possible action to accept fiscal year 2016-17 annual financial report.
So moved.
Second.
President Bragg, members of the governing board, I did put together a presentation. Actually,
You want to actually give your report before we approve it?
For the benefit of the community as well as the governing board to help explain a little bit about the annual financial report. This year I did have Brian Lockeray, my business services director, helped immensely, and so his name is on this presentation because he helped. Again, with the strategic plan, we are aligning with strategy 4. And if you have in your packet in front of you, there should be a smaller single-page summary. A lot of the information that I'm going over in this presentation can be derived simply by looking at that page. I did give you a full copy of the annual financial report, of which I will be asking you to accept tonight. But the summary is a great way to kind of get a good overview of what has happened over the last fiscal year financially. If you look at that summary, it talks about our levy fund activity. We're going to talk a little bit about that summary page and what it shows as far as budget controlled and cash controlled funds. And then I'm also going to go over a little bit of tax history for the district. Our levy fund activity is basically any of those funds that we levy tax on property of homeowners and business owners within the district. Those are our maintenance and operations fund, our unrestricted capital fund, adjacent ways, and debt service. This activity is displayed as beginning and ending fund balances as well as sources of revenue, and that you will find on page 1 of the annual financial report. And it breaks it up by the types of revenue that the district receives for each of those levy funds. This is much too small for anybody in the audience to read, so I apologize, but the reason I put it up is to kind of display for you, again, the summary financial report, which is, there's a link on our website if you are interested in looking at it, and the detail behind it, you can go to the Department of Education website to see all this. Those budget control funds that you always have the opportunity to see and review each month for the financial activity of the district, again, are those funds with limits that are based only on the budget, determined typically by formula or allocation. Again, those are our levy funds, maintenance and operations, unrestricted capital, adjacent ways, debt service, as well as our classroom site fund and our state and federal projects. And the page numbers on the annual financial report where you can find that information is listed here as well. I always like to point out that on those state and federal projects, it is not unusual to see negative fund balances in those funds at year end because they follow a reimbursement method of payment, and that is typical. Again, we follow that, the budget process to make sure that we are within the budget for each of those, even though the cash balance might be lower than, might be in the negative. Cash control funds, again, are those funds which are limited on just the cash that you have available to spend in the fund balance. Those would be items such as our instructional improvement fund, which is the Indian gaming monies, school health implementation program, food service fund operates on a cash basis, our civic and community education funds, auxiliary funds, extracurricular activity funds, and then all of those other ones. And all of these funds are located on page 6 of the annual financial report. Just an example of how you might look at for the budget controlled funds. Again, because they're budget controlled, it's important to look at it from the budget less the expenditures and then the ending budget balance. And this year, for the 2016-17 fiscal year, we had an annual budget for M&O of $39,659,619. We spent $37,568,556. And our ending budget balance is just over $2 million, which is about 5% of our M&O balance, which is good. It's a healthy carry forward. Again, a lot of that has to do with our growth, but it's also management of the budget. Last fiscal year, I took a look at what we had carried forward, and it was about the same percent, 5%. So we're kind of remaining consistent, even just with the growth. So how you would look at on the summary page, what I kind of gave you was if you took that fourth column, which says budgeted expenditures, less actual expenditures, which is column 5, then you get to that budget balance. And again, these budget balances, when you've got a budget-controlled fund, any remaining budget balance at year end, you carry forward then into the next fiscal year. Our cash-controlled funds are basically beginning cash fund balance plus revenues less expenditures, and then our ending cash balance. Again, those are also carried forward. This is an example of our insurance proceeds fund, and it is, you can see it's got a healthier ending cash balance than the beginning cash balance, and that is just an example of how you can take a look at those funds. Tax history, we've kind of had a little bit of a roller coaster in the earlier of the 2000s, but if you can look at the last 6 years, specifically at the green, which is the primary rate, there's a primary and secondary rate. Our primary rate is the main allocation that gives us our budget, our levy funds, but then the secondary is for bonds and overrides. So when you see that little dip in 15 and 16, that was simply our override going away. And then this year, the little raise from last year to this year was almost entirely because of that override. So, but if you look at 2014, again, there's that consistency and the leveling off of the tax rate. The district's done a pretty good job of keeping that relatively flat. Some of the highlights for fiscal 17 M&O. I always like to point out that our maintenance and operations fund is primarily people. It's driven by our human resources, right, our staff. And so this fiscal year that just ended, we are almost at 83% salaries and benefits. That is consistent with what we were at last year. We had $1.7 million more in M&O expenditures than fiscal 16, again due primarily to growth, additional teachers, and staff. All of that carry forward amount is preserved, and you will see that increase because, again, when I propose my budget and we adopt it, it's based on an estimate. Now that I have a real number that I can carry forward and change that revision, our next revision will indicate that actual change, which is an increase to what I estimated. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you've got.
Chris, I have a question. Next to the secondary property tax, bringing that spiked figure back to where it was a few years ago with the override, do you have any news as far as when we might see? I know the override's obviously in place and a certain level that will stay, but obviously as bonds get paid off and whatnot, that secondary tax rate for us may drop. Is there any graph or showing when that may? I know obviously we're up for another bond election, but is there any? Forgive my absence of not being here. It may already be out there somewhere. But as far as that bond schedule dropping that secondary tax rate in the foreseeable future?
It's hard to project, obviously, on what goes on in the future, especially with the growth in our district and the sale of bonds. The ideal situation would be to keep that relatively flat and not have it spike up. I don't have a projection as to where that's going to go. Obviously, we always take a look at what new bond sales will do to our tax rate anytime we go out for a sale. And of course, as you'll see in my next presentation, the larger our district becomes with more people, the more people there is to kind of spread that debt out over. And so it's very likely that that could drop. But again, I don't have a projection for you. I'm not sure if that helps answer your question.
Crystal, I think Stiefel provided that. Can you think back to the projections that they gave us related to this?
The projections that they gave us were relative to the 17-18 fiscal year, which indicated, again, kind of a relatively flat rate.
So my memory of that presentation was that even if, when the new bond passes, if it were to pass, where the way they scheduled the sale of them, the anticipation was that it would remain flat and that would not increase. But I think if the bond passed, the decrease would be next to impossible.
Gotcha. And that's what, with the growth, the amount of people coming in and that being flattened out, wouldn't that then drop people's personal, but it would keep the rate the same? Kind of was, right?
So I think with the amount of people, so their estimates were very conservative.
Right.
And so they gave us incredibly conservative numbers and schedules, but their belief was we could maintain flat.
Yes, and
Okay.
I recall, like, if you look at the schedule, and it's actually, their projections are actually in our bond publicity pamphlet, so you can see with the bond what our secondary property tax rates are
Seems
estimated to be. And you're correct, those do drop over time. As those bonds are paid off, they do drop.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the April presentation. I don't know if they've been back, but I remember that.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that was a big discussion.
What you were looking at was that
there's an increase.
secondary portion.
All right, thank you, Kirsten.
Any other questions? So with that, I'll take a motion on item G.
So moved.
Second?
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that passes. Thanks, Crystal. H. This is exciting for some people in the crowd. Discussion and possible approval of the guaranteed maximum price for the elementary school number 6. Crystal.
President Bragg, members of the governing board, based on the building design presented at the governing board retreat back in August 31st, the team has a presentation that to provide for us based on the guaranteed maximum price. This consists of construction costs associated with the new construction of elementary school number 6. The funding for the construction of elementary school number 6 will come from a lease, which will provide about $17.5 million for construction costs. But tonight we're asking to approve the GMP for that school, which is $15,861,000. That is for the construction costs of the school. And we have McCarthy here in the audience, as well as our architect from
President
ADM.
Bragg, I would just like to recognize Ben Barcone from ADM. He is the the boss of ADM, and I'd like to thank Ben and Jennifer for putting together a good design. And next to him is Tyler Schultz, and Dave Peterson is in the crowd back there. They both are from McCarthy, and so they're here to answer any questions for you.
So I'm assuming that they have this in their packet, yes, the one-page summary of the GMP? We get the whole thing.
Yes, each.
There you go. Perfect. So, President Bragg, members of the board, Superintendent Berry, what you have in front of you is just a real quick executive summary of everything that we've been doing for the past 4.5 months. It's gone by very quickly. We've enjoyed working with your team and the McCarthy team to be able to come here and proudly say that your project budget was $15,861,000 and that we were able to meet that budget. So we were able to meet it by working really hard together and coming up with a lot of compromises. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to be very proud of the school that you're going to see starting construction very quickly. And some of the things that you told us that were important to you a couple of months ago when we brought our presentation to you, we incorporated in there. We got you additional parking. So if you look at the bullet points, there's 126 parking stalls. They're only required to have 40 by code, so we've more than exceeded that. We also gave you some water in the computer lab for future if we wanted to convert that. We looked at the enclosing of that breezeway and found that it was going to cost so much money it wasn't really appropriate to go forward. But we were able to get the ball field lighting in there, and we got the roll-up garage doors in the gymnasium. That, among all the other things that you see here, it's a bargain. It's a bargain.
Awesome.
So we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Can you kind of tell the difference? I was looking through this, and it looks very exciting, especially this is the first time I've seen one of these for a little while. On the building in slate concrete, it says fiber mesh has not been included on interior slabs per ADM direction. Can you kind of speak on, I think I know what fiber mesh is, but can you kind of speak on the differences or pros and cons of interior slab having it or not? I see per ADM direction, and that's kind of caught my eye.
Yes, so fiber mesh, depending on how your mixture of your concrete is, it's an additive that could possibly assist with ensuring your concrete holds together well. But the mixed design that was already proposed by the structural engineer required us not to have that fiber mesh in there. So it was something that we proposed as a team, and it wasn't taken based on their recommendation. So it's a good mixed design, and it's not needed. So because we proposed it to the team, we had to say that we weren't putting it in. So.
Gotcha. Thank you. I don't have
I'm excited. I'm so excited. I think this is going to be great. We need the building. I'm excited to be growing. I know I went to the model homes in that area, and they are super excited. I said, "Oh, school's coming," and they're happy. So let's get it on. So with that,
yeah, with your approval, like I said earlier in the superintendent report, we'll issue a letter, a notice to proceed, and we could break ground as early as October 23rd. Groundbreaking would be on November 15th.
So we really appreciate both of your companies and the support that you've given, and we look forward to seeing this get built.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure thing. So with that, I will take a motion on item H.
So moved.
second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. We're going to build an elementary school. Congratulations. Yay. That's so much fun. Okay, 10. Discussion and presentation of bond expenditures and M&O override expenditures for fiscal 16 and 17. Crystal.
President Bragg, Governing Board members, final presentation for the night. Tonight I have the pleasure of presenting to the Governing Board and the community a summary of our M&O override and bond expenditures for the 16-17 school year. And again, an alliance with Strategy 4 in the strategic plan. So, Arizona Revised Statutes 15481 and 15491 basically puts out a requirement that in a public meeting, we are required to discuss annually how we spend our M&O override expenditures and bond expenditures from the prior year. So I have up through October to comply with this. The M&O override in 16-17, if you recall, is our very first year of our 15% override, and that 15% is going to remain for 5 full fiscal years through 2021. We additionally have some bond proceeds that were spent, and so I'm going to go through each of these topics and provide some more information. On the M&O override, which was approved November 2015, our 2016-17 amount ended up being a little bit higher than what was estimated in the override pamphlet, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But our actual amount received for the override was $4,655,000. For 2017-18, that dollar amount is up to just over $5.3 million. All of that, just as a reminder, is how that calculates is it's 15% of our revenue control limit. Our revenue control limit, again, is that formula number that is provided by the state based on enrollment. And obviously that increase that you see from fiscal 17 to fiscal 18 is due to growth. The effective fiscal years, again, for 5 full years, we'll have the 15%. On the 6th year, it ramps down to 10%, and then on the 7th year, it ramps down to 5%. Typically, a district will go out to its voters in the 4th year to ask again to continue the override, so that 15% would remain constant. In our case, that projected election date would be November 2019, which is 2 years from this November. Just kind of an overview, excuse me, of our override and what we had in the voter pamphlet. Our estimated budget was almost $4.3 million, and that estimated tax rate was $1.35, or just under $1.36. Because of growth in 2016-17, which was our first year, we actually brought in $4,655,000 at a tax rate of just under $1.35. I always like to kind of show these side by side because, again, remember in our voter pamphlet, we estimated receiving only $4.3 million. We got a little bit more, but that tax rate went down. And that is, again, one of the ways that the tax rate can drop a little bit when you have more taxpayers in the district, and we did. Projecting into the 2017-18 fiscal year, we've got just over $5.3 million in that 15% override, and our actual tax rate, again, has dropped just a little bit to $1.31. So again, you can see dollars going up, percentage going down. Another reminder of what was in our voter pamphlet in 2015. The funds we raised for this initiative are to go towards kindergarten through 12th grade to increase academic programs that prepare students for post-secondary education and workforce success, increasing art and music classes throughout the district, increasing school security to maintain a safe and secure learning environment, reduction of class size at the kindergarten through 8th grade level, increasing salaries, and expanding and enhancing athletic ROTC and gifted programs. The majority of the budget that we were looking at went to that reduction in class size as well as increasing salaries.
Just on that note, Dr. Monroe pointed out the ROT started out as an MBCC program, just a few students. Now we have 3 full-time instructors. Very successful program, and it's continuing to grow. How many students do you know how many students are in that program? Started grade.
Wow. Wow. Boom.
One other thing that kind of helped boost the program a little bit was the approval to and the grant process. So we actually get reimbursed some dollars as well, and we've received about, last year I think we started mid-year, and so we only got half of the proceeds, but we received about $29,000 towards that program. So it's doing very well. Again, just looking at the budget of just under $4.7 million, remember, again, when we were looking at spending the override monies, we were working with a budget of $4.3 million. And again, with that, we took a look at and accomplished a salary study which provided increases much needed throughout the district, and that dollar amount was higher than, and we knew that going into the fiscal year, knowing that we were going to spend a little bit more in that area. But if you look at all of the different areas that we spent in for fiscal 16-17, and we did manage to accomplish every single one of those initiatives, we still managed to spend more than we brought in, even though we were only looking at a $4.3 million estimate at the start of the year. Looking at the 17-18 fiscal year with that $5.3 million budget, just to give you an idea, everything is, all of the dollars are still focused in those same initiatives. Again, the majority of it is really going towards those increased salaries and the increased staffing that goes along with our growing district and keeping those class sizes down. So you see 65% towards increased salaries and 18% towards reduction in class sizes. That's going to remain in effect and continue for the life of the override. And then we're still accomplishing quite a bit with the allocation of about 17% of those dollars towards programs and resources for the classroom. Now let's talk a little bit about your bonds. This is the requirement that I present to the governing board what expenditures we had for the previous fiscal year. I have between September 1st and October 31st to provide that according to ARS 15491. During the, that should say 16-17, my apologies. During the 16-17 fiscal year, the district had 2 bonds with unspent bond proceeds, and that was the 2010 bond and the 2014 bond. The 2010 bond categories, again, originating in 2010, $15 million to go towards technology, furniture and equipment, transportation, renovation and new construction, and admin technology and equipment. This is a breakdown of the 2016-17 expenditures for the fiscal year. You see that column in green right there. So you've got your approved $15 million column on your left, and here are, again, all of those categories. Expenditures as of June 30, 2016, and the expenditures that were made for the 16-17 school year, which amounted to just under $1 million, and your budget, or your remaining balance of $3.8 million. Now I'm going to go into where did those dollars go. For your 2010 bond, we did not have bond sales in 2016-17. All of those expenditures were made from unspent proceeds from the February bond sale last year. Those dollars went towards technology, furniture, and equipment at some of our schools to refresh the technology in those classrooms, as well as the administrative technology and equipment refresh that was needed here at the district office. Also, during the 2016-17 school year, Desert Mountain Elementary School just finished construction that summer of 2016, and so the last remaining balance for finalizing that construction of $262,248 was spent out of these proceeds. Another purchase that was actually kind of at the tail end of 2015-16, there was a purchase of 6 special education buses, and those were not received until early 2016-17, and so the actual expense hit in 16-17. Now taking a look at the 2014 bond categories, again, that's the $80 million initiative in 2014, which consisted of renovations and construction of middle school, high school, and PAC, new construction of our school facilities at the northern site, pupil transportation, and other site renovations, as well as furniture, technology, and equipment. Here is a snapshot of where we are, and we spent about $6.4 million last fiscal year, and those are the categories which were approved by the voters. So as of June 30, 2017, that should say 16, sorry, expenditures for fiscal 2016-17 amounting at $6.4 million. If you take the $80 million minus everything spent year to date, we still have just under $48 million to spend in the 2014 bond. Those dollars again went to finalization of that new construction of the 20 classroom addition at the high school. Additionally, additional parking and food court at the Queen Creek High School. So that was $2.4 million. There were still some substantial construction items that were happening at the very beginning of 2016-17 that needed to be finalized. We also were finalizing the middle school, Queen Creek Middle School renovations project, the 16 classroom addition and new admin building. $2.1 million were spent to finalize that project. And we had finished out just a small portion of the Performing Arts Center renovations, as well as purchased an additional 6 regular education 84 passenger buses for just under $665,000. Finally, we utilized just over $1 million to furnish the Queen Creek Middle School renovation project, as well as the Queen Creek High School project and Desert Mountain Elementary project. A small portion of monies went toward some miscellaneous technology and classroom needs over at Gateway Polytechnic Academy as well. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you for all of that information. It's important right now, especially in the community, for them to see that what was said, that money was going to be spent on, indeed has, and the programs and things that have grown for our students. I remember the years when my 2 older daughters were at Newell Barney, and you had 3 options for an elective. You had band, orchestra, and wheel. And to see what all these kids have now at the junior high, at the high school, it is really, truly a great program that everybody's been working so hard to build. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to just echo what Ms. Leonard just said. I think the big idea here is that we had good board guidance that was specific in nature. The voter pamphlet language outlined specific programs and initiatives, and I think this is a good, transparent report that reflects that we've spent that money exactly how our constituents wanted it to be spent. So I appreciate the board's direction on that. And I also appreciate Crystal for making this visual and showing the public. I think that's super important to show the pictures and the outcomes. I think that's really nice. So good work.
It's hard to believe all the stuff that has gone in since 2014.
Yeah.
And the program started with the generous support of taxpayers. I mean, it's because of that and all the hard work that's done here to get all that stuff up and running. It's not easy, and I think that picture show is absolutely amazing to show all the cement that was poured, all the programs started, that mixed with the growth, mixed with the student increases, just show that people just want to come to Queen Creek and Southeast Mesa and just put their kids in the school systems. And you wonder why, and you see that, and you're just like, well, I know why. I can definitely see that. So it's nice to be reminded of all that after being gone for 5 months. It kind of makes me a little watery. So thank you. And I think it's a good point out for the question 2 is that projecting out, if that's even a word, someone correct me if they're English, reauthorization, repurposing those dollars to be able to continue that trend of making sure we have more school facilities and more programs so our kids can get the best of the best. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition. Hopefully get a picture show like that again next year and the year after. So thank you. And hopefully people can access that. I don't know if we have an ability to put that somewhere.
This presentation is online.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn my mic off now. Thank you.
Mass email that.
Thank you, board. I appreciate the opportunity to present all of this. It's been nice to have such support. So the community and everybody involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, moving right along. Personnel. So we can do personnel all together. We can do item by item, however you guys want to do it.
Motion to take personnel in its entirety.
Second?
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Announcements. Upcoming board meetings. On October 17th, which is now, we have a board meeting. But November 14th, we will have one at 4:30 and a regular session at 6. So just one in November, just one in December, December 5th at 4:30 and 6. And then January 9th and January 23rd. There will be a board retreat on January 18th at 4:30 p.m. And we have on October 24th a business partner breakfast. And on November 3rd, a Queen Creek Unified School District chili cook-off. Wowza. And so, also, November 16th through the 20th, Lion King performances at the Performing Arts Center. And on the 17th, Special Education Unified Sports Bowling event at Brunswick Bowling in Mesa. That'll be awesome, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And on November 29th, a joint Queen Creek Unified School District Board and Queen Creek Town Council meeting at the Queen Creek Town Council offices from 6 to 8. So I'm excited to go check out the new digs and work with the town.
President Brigg, I think the NHS induction ceremony is tomorrow night.
It is.
6:30, and you guys are all welcome to attend that if you like. It's up at the Performing Arts Center.
Thank you, Dr. Berry. So with that, we have item 13, adjournment, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We be out of here at 8:05.